So this is like how rough my drawings actually tend to be in my blocking pass. Um, and the reason you can, and so what I'm doing in this is I just look in the, when I start posing in the CG, I just look for ways to get these lines going through. See, like, and
Yeah.
try and get these nice smooth lines to get that flow going through the drawing. Otherwise, in CG, chances are it would have ended up looking more like this, you know?
Yeah.
And so you find ways, and even if it's for a few frames, you can like shrink the limbs, like, you know, if you can get you can shrink the legs, because just say he gets in this pose, because it's IK, his leg would bend like that. But
Mhm.
sometimes just to get that pose, you might shrink the leg a little bit just to get that tension in there. Um, and same with this, like I wouldn't necessarily think to get this line going all the way through, you know, the drawing here. And even now when I'm looking at it, I'd probably push it up more like this to get that line going all the way through the spine. But literally that's how I keep my drawings, so that I can, like, how fast I can animate. Then I just go to the next frame and the anticipation is down here, but you can see it's not on model. It's not, the scale isn't right. Like, but you can just through that you can see the flow, and then you go to the next drawing and it's like up here. It's because I'm just worrying about line. Like, that's the thing, is if I was cleaning up, I couldn't clean up like that. But because I'm keeping it rough, it's more just where the lines would go. And, you know, then you go into this like big anticipation, you know. And so you can see even here the way I'm drawing these lines, like, you would never pose it this smooth, but now that I'm drawing these lines, now when I pose it in CG, you know, again, like I said, the CG would probably end up being more like this and this, but now I'd really, really try and push that top line of the arm, you know, to get that curve there. You know what I mean? And just then you get this nice flow going through it, and you can see the movement in there now. But like, you can see how fast that was. I didn't have to pose anything.
Yes.
So, and that's just working on getting. Because the thing is, like I said at the beginning of Zootopia, because it was the first time I was really doing this, my drawings were very stiff because I was trying to keep the drawing on model and make it look like the character and all that kind of stuff. So it didn't flow. And then finally I stopped worrying about it and just getting the lines in there, just getting the flow. And then I went back and cleaned up the drawing, if I want, just to show the director so he had a clearer idea of what I was showing.
Mhm.
But to get that movement, literally you can do like stick figures like this, just like that flow. And you can animate something pretty fast doing that, and then you try and match that in your CG. And it really, really does help. So if you can get used to that, just even if you have an hour or whatever, just start doing really loose drawings. Like, even, you know, don't even try and copy reference necessarily. Just try and get a sketchbook or a piece of paper and just start drawing loose characters. And this is honestly how I draw most of my characters, is this bean shaped body, a head, and like arms and legs like this. Like, it's so loose. Yeah, so let's just quickly go over this. So yeah, mainly my main note, and again, my main note is, this is, see how just everything moves at the exact same time.
Mhm.
It feels like, it definitely feels like it's going from key to key, and then you worked in the breakdowns and stuff, which all look great. But now I think as a polished stage, you want to go in and start offsetting things. So see how here his hands are, everything's just moving at the exact same speed and the exact same placement. Like, the hands are always the same distance apart. And so there's no texture and no interest in there. So just as you go into that stuff, really, so you've got a bit of it here where it's overlapping, but you can really probably separate them a little bit more as he comes up. So maybe bring this this one down here. And then you may want to overlap them here. So one arm starts coming down here, but the other arm is still back here, so it doesn't feel like it's all moving at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. So I like that you're smearing here. That looks awesome. But I think you can, again, get this maybe hand back there. And then that's fine that you can pop. I think you can still get this hand smearing there. And see, because then they won't land at the exact same time. It'll feel like he's like really grabbing them rather than like this is moving the same time. You want it to kind of feel like he's doing that. And then again, working on your just follow through and your arcs. So I think you can probably drag. I like how you're dragging his head here. That's great. But I think you can drag it for one more frame still. It really kind of just so it really feels like he's like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to there. And then again, so his head and his body don't feel so stiff. See how his hips just freeze completely? You probably want some movement forward still, just a little cushion, so it feels like it's sort of moving a little bit, but not like right now he's sort of hitting there. You kind of want some cushion. And that'll just help that flow. Like it's almost like he's grabbing him and then pulling him rather than, okay. And that's a kind of polished thing you kind of want to do with anything is this is a great piece of animation. Now you just want to go in and go into each individual thing and make sure it's doing what it needs to do. Because this works now. This is a great spline pass. Now you want to go into the hips and make sure that arc is moving and the arcs are working. And then you want to go into the hands, make sure the arcs are working, go into each shoulder, go into the head, go into the chest, like each, not all at the same time. Once you've got this version that you have, do a full pass of the hips and make sure they're working. Then do a full pass of the head and blah, 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 blah. Okay?
Yeah.
So it'd be nice here to get to really feel this, the head when it grabs, like he really kind of gets his head down there. So follow through with the head a little bit. So the head to really show, you know, that he's really like pulling him. You get weight behind him. So that's great. I think, so this is nice. I do like this action. I like how you did this. I think to really make that pose read, I think this is great. I like what you did here. You probably push that hand a little bit there and then get this one just to make it read. This feels like his arm's a little, it looks like it's shrunk. It looks like it's a little baby arm there. So I think you can clear that out and make it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just clears it up and it really makes it clear what he just did.